The war was over, for now. Out past the debris belt of the shattered moon, Phyrexis, Station Aractis floated like a lazy ember in the dark. Soldiers from half a dozen species rotated through, licking their wounds, sharing war stories, and pretending they weren't just waiting for the next galactic wildfire to light up. On Deck 12, inside a low-gravity wreck chamber lined with glowing fungal cloth and mismatched furniture, a campfire flickered. Fake, of course. A holographic projection, but warm enough in spirit. Humans called it tradition. Everyone else called it weird. "Let me get this straight," snorted Jukar, a violet-skinned grunt from the high-gravity world Kretak IV. "Your people believed that a mortal stole fire from the gods and gave it to the rest of your species, and the gods punished him by tying him to a rock for eternity?" Tom Grayson grinned, holding a steaming metal cup in his gloved hands. "Yep. Name was Prometheus, one of the first rebels in human myth." The aliens around the fire burst into laughter, high-pitched clicks, deep rumbles, strange synthetic whines from voice modulators. "Primitive nonsense," sneered Laterne Vexi, a sleek, crystalline warrior from the Atrax Combine. "Your species still honors these lies? These childish fables?" "It's not about whether they're true," Tom said, eyes glinting in the firelight. "It's about what they mean." "Mean?" Vexi scoffed. "They mean your ancestors were delusional." Tom leaned forward slightly. "Maybe, or maybe they were telling the only kind of truth that matters when you're small and scared and trying to survive in a world full of monsters, real or imagined." A silence fell. Not hostile, not friendly, tense, curious, balanced on a knife edge. Then the doors slid open with a hiss. General Varus Katan stepped in. The room shifted, subtly but unmistakably. This was a being whose name was whispered even among war-bred species. 6 scars crossed his plated thorax. A ceremonial mantle hung from one broad shoulder, still stained with the blood of fallen allies and enemies. He took one look at the circle around the fire and said nothing for a long breath. "Continue," he growled finally, lowering himself into a coil-shaped seat. The human was telling a story. Some eyes darted to Vexi, expecting another snide comment, but she said nothing. Tom swallowed, then forced a casual tone. Right. Well, the Prometheus thing, it's one of our oldest myths. A symbol of rebellion, sacrifice, the power of knowledge." He looked around. "You laugh because it sounds absurd, but for early humans fire was power. Heat, protection, survival. Maybe it came from rubbing sticks together. Maybe lightning struck a tree, doesn't matter. We told ourselves someone gave it to us and paid the price. So we'd never forget that every gift comes with a cost." "And you worship this story?" asked a soft, uncertain voice. A young Venari medic. "No," Tom said. "We remember it. We pass it down. And in the darkest places, the trenches, the void, the crawl spaces of dying ships, we become it." The general stirred. "You speak of sacrifice?" Katan said slowly. "Do you believe your myths shape your kind?" Tom met his gaze. "I think they remind us who we are, or who we should be." Varus Katan's mandibles clicked softly. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he turned to the others. "This human speaks truth," he said, "not just with his words, but his fire." And then, in the hush that followed, "I once knew a woman, a human, who told me a myth, not unlike this one. She told it the night before we faced death together." No one moved. She was not a commander. Not even a soldier, technically, just a strategist. But her story, and what she did with it, changed the course of a war. He leaned forward, eyes glowing. "If you want to laugh at myths, laugh later. First, listen." A chill passed through the room. Because when Varus Katan, the butcher of Serac, said, "Listen." Even the stars seemed to lean in. The room had gone completely silent. Even the ever-chittering Jean pilots, always fidgeting, had stilled. The campfire crackled, a programmed sound loop, yet suddenly it felt ancient and real. General Varus Catan sat forward, his plated hands steepled, his breath slow and deep. "She told me her name was Rachel Winters," he began. "Human, civilian by classification, brought in as a tactical consultant after your kind cracked one of our encrypted war games and rewrote the outcome in 12 hours. Tom blinked. "Wait, Winters? The Cold Star strategist?" Catan nodded once, slowly. "You know the name, but not the story, not the truth." Kratos, a 6, a jungle moon veined with obsidian rivers and acidic mist. Our forward command was ambushed, cloaked Korgathi units, 100 strong, moving with terrifying precision. They severed our comms, jammed our exfil window. I had 43 soldiers under my command, most of them young, half bleeding. We had hours at best before they closed in. We expected extraction. Instead, they sent a dropship with a single passenger, a woman. No exosuit, no armor, a cloth coat and a datapad. She stepped through the smoke as if it were morning fog and looked at me, with a cool, assessing gaze. "General Catan," she said, "I'm here to rewrite the end of this chapter." "Let me be clear," the general continued, eyes gleaming like molten metal in the campfire's glow. "I considered her an insult, a gesture of desperation from your high command. But Rachel Winters didn't flinch when I barked in her face. She asked for a map, troop placements, topography scans, and a comms beacon. She asked me for a story. I thought she was mad. She asked what myths our people had, Cathar legends, warrior trials, ancestral tales. I told her we had no use for such things. She just smiled. "Then we'll have to borrow one." That night, she orchestrated a performance. We dragged crates of flares into the trees, painted bones with thermal gel, wired old comm units to project whispers into the mist, rewired drones to create moving heat signatures. Then, we vanished. The next morning, the Korgathi scouts entered our perimeter and saw hell. Shrieking voices echoed from the trees. Phantom figures appeared in every thermal scan. Their pathfinding AI reported impossible terrain, sudden cliffs, shifting fog. One scout's brain reportedly snapped when a whisper addressed him by name. "It means we can become whatever they fear most." "For 3 days," Catan growled, "the enemy believed they had trespassed into the realm of an ancient war god. Their discipline cracked, their formations broke. They fired blindly into shadows. One group detonated their own supply train. And when they retreated, half mad and stumbling, we walked out behind them. Not as prey, but as predators cloaked in legend." He paused. "She told me one last story before we parted ways. A Greek tale, I believe. A labyrinth, a monster, and a thread to find your way out." He looked around the circle. "I never believed in monsters before that day. Now I do." Tom spoke softly. "And Rachel? She survived. She stayed behind to detonate the last decoy beacon. Said the illusion had to end with a sacrifice. Said a story without a cost isn't remembered. She didn't make it." No one spoke, not even the fire. "She died like your myths," Catan said finally. "Not because they're true, but because they make truth." Catan stood. "You laugh at their stories," he said, "but they carry fire inside them. You think they are weak, sentimental, soft, but that fire, it burns through lies, through fear, through the dark." He turned, walking toward the exit, and just before the door hissed open, he said, "Winters told me one more thing, the most dangerous human myth of all, the one they still believe, that even in the jaws of death, there is always a way. The fire had burned low, though it never lost its light. Tom Grayson sat forward, elbows on knees, staring into the illusionary flames like they might answer something ancient and unspoken. Around him, the alien soldiers had quieted. Not bored, not dismissive, but changed. Even Vexi hadn't spoken for minutes, a new record probably. She stayed behind, the young Venari medic whispered, on purpose. Katan's voice echoed again in Tom's mind. A story without a cost isn't remembered. A few moments later, the general returned, not to speak, but to place something in the fire's projection. It shimmered as it landed, a small metal insignia scorched and melted on one side, barely legible. But Tom recognized the pattern, a stylized flame entwined with a spiral, the mark of the Tactical Ghost Corps. The badge Rachel Winters had never officially worn. She left no body, Catan said, his voice like gravel and steel. Only this, recovered from the shattered relay tower she used as her pyre. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. After he left, someone else spoke. Unexpected, gentle. It was Mirka, a towering, six-limbed Truckar brute, known more for breaking walls than using words. In my culture, he rumbled, heroes become stars when they fall, guiding lights, not gods. He looked at the badge. But she became ash, and that made your fire brighter. Tom blinked. The silence that followed wasn't hollow. It was sacred. Then, without planning it, Tom began to speak. She once said something, he murmured. I read it in one of her pre-war papers. About myths, she said, the truth doesn't live in facts. It lives in the fight to make meaning out of chaos. That's why myths matter. He paused. Humans didn't evolve to be the strongest or fastest. We evolved to remember, to imagine things that weren't real, and then make them real. Mirka nodded slowly. You imagined fire and made it fact. And we imagined gods, Tom added. Sometimes to worship, sometimes to fight, but always to understand ourselves. Another voice joined in, deep, rattling yet thoughtful. It was Zival, a bone-armored tactician from the Ven Dominion. My people once had myths, he said slowly. Our ancestors abandoned them, called them inefficient memory structures and deleted entire libraries. He glanced at the fire. We were wrong. Tom let the silence breathe again, then smiled faintly. You know what else Rachel told her students? He looked around. That the best stories aren't told about humans. They're told by those who thought they understood us, and then realized they didn't. A sharp chirp interrupted the moment, a ping from the station's intercom. Attention all personnel. Unknown vessel approaching, no transponder signal, all off-duty units remain on standby. The fire flickered. Reality reasserted itself. Vexi finally spoke, not mocking, but focused. We're not done with war yet. Tom rose to his feet, nodding. We never are. As the group began to disband, preparing for whatever came next, Mirka stayed a moment longer. He looked at the fire, then at Tom. Will you tell another story later? He asked. Tom gave a tired smile. You want another myth? No, the Truckar replied. I want another truth that doesn't exist yet, but might, if we believe it long enough. As Tom walked out, badge in hand, one thought echoed in his mind, louder than the alarm klaxons. Maybe the real reason they feared humanity wasn't our weapons, or our will, or our chaos. Maybe it was our dangerous, beautiful refusal to stop believing, even when the stars burned dark. The alert faded. False signal. The crew returned to their bunks, their duties, their waiting. But something had shifted in the air aboard Station Arrakis. as if a tremor of myth had passed through its corridors, invisible but undeniable. Tom sat alone now at the holographic fire. The others had gone. He held the badge, Rachel's badge, burned, blackened, but not broken. Behind him, footsteps, not heavy, not loud, but deliberate. General Catan returned. "I once told myself," he began, "that humanity would never last, that your kind was too chaotic, too fractured, too obsessed with fiction." Tom didn't look up. And now, Catan lowered himself across the fire. His voice, for once, was almost quiet, almost reverent. "Now, I believe the stories may be the reason you survive when others fall." Tom finally turned to face him. "Why?" The general didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured to the fire. "You spoke of Prometheus. He stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. You spoke of Odysseus, who defied monsters with wit, of labyrinths and dragons and threads that guide you home." He tilted his head. "What thread do you follow, human?" Tom smiled, weary but not defeated. "The one we spin ourselves, out of hope, out of heart, out of stubbornness so thick even the void can't chew through it." Catan leaned back, the weight of 1,000 battles in his plated shoulders. "I saw a man once," he said, "crawling through a trench of poison gas. No suit, just a rag over his mouth and fire in his eyes. He carried another soldier on his back, an enemy." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Human?" Catan nodded. "No, the one on his back was human." Pause. "He never made it, but he whispered something as he died. I had to translate it later." He glanced up. He said, "There's always a way, or we make one." Tom's eyes glistened. But he didn't blink, because that was the core of it, right there. Not the myths, not the tech, not the fleets or strategies. It was the belief, illogical, reckless, completely unreasonable, that somehow, even at the bottom of the universe's darkest pit, humans would find a way through. Catan stood. "You carry your myths like weapons," he said. "You wield grief like a blade, hope like armor, and stories like shields." He looked down at the badge in Tom's hand. "She gave you a thread," he said. "Now pull it." Tom closed his fingers around the scorched metal. Not to hold it, but to carry it. Outside, beyond the station walls, the stars continued to burn. Some of them had died long ago, just light echoes from corpses. But the human eye didn't care. It still saw them. It still believed in them. Narrator voice, closing words. "Some say myths are lies told to comfort the weak. But on the battlefield, they're what get you to stand back up when logic says stay down. They're the voice in your ear saying, get up, go further. There's always a way. And if there isn't, you make one."